what does it mean by 50%, 55%, and X is actually the higher one of your midterm or final exam scores, right? And Y is the smaller one. So I just give your higher score a higher weight. Is a kind of favor to you, right? So this formula is actually a weighted average of your midterm score and your final exam scores. Okay? So this formula is actually a weighted average of your income elasticity. And the weights must be summed to 1. Is that clear? And this formula is actually a very interesting one because we just require the weighted average to be 1. We require the average, the weighted average to be 1. It's a quite special requirement. All right. So the formula here is just derived from the budget constraint. And we just differentiate the budget constraint with respect to Y, and then we got this formula. Okay, so this formula must be held always. And so, can you see very clearly? I'm not quite sure, can you see that? Or you just see your slide? So, the income elasticity, when it is smaller than 0, when the income elasticity is smaller than 0, which means it is a -1, then we call it as an inferior good. An inferior good. Why it is inferior good? Because by the definition here, here, if the income elasticity is negative, which means a positive increase, a positive 1% change in Y, and the percentage change of Q1 is negative, which means more income, less quantity demanded, right? So when your income elasticity is negative, then it must be an inferior good. Is that clear? The more income you have, and the less quantity demanded you got. Okay? And when your income elasticity is positive, then we call it normal good. It must be normal good. And within the range of positive income elasticity, we further divide into two separating regions. So by 1, when the income elasticity falls within 0 and 1, we call this kind of normal good as necessary good. Necessary good. And if the income elasticity exceeds 1, we call it luxury good. A luxury good. Okay? So, in this area, in this region, it's luxury, necessary, and both of them are a normative good and inferior good. Okay?
Excuse me.
Yes?
So, in extreme cases, what is that a different good is like a very extreme cases of an inferior good?
Yes. I'll talk about Giffen's good later, maybe in the third hour. Probably, I think, yes. All right. So think about something here. Let me give you an example. Because all of the stuff on the blackboard is also on the slide, so I may erase this part to give you something. Now, theta 1, eta 1, or if you like, use just add the symbol on the slide. Use theta 2, eta 2 equals 1, okay? And we also know the sum of theta 1 and theta 2 should be 1 because they are shears. So the shear or the weight. And the most nature example of or the combination of eta 1 and eta 2 to make the equation would be 1, 1. Because in this case, theta 1 times 1 plus theta 2 times 1 equals 1, right? This must be satisfied. This requirement must be met, right? Must be satisfied. Is that clear? Because they are shears, and the sum of the shears must be 1. Is that clear? Oh, I just erased that. Because the shear, the sum of the shears must be 1. And if we make eta 1 and eta 2 to be 1, then the equation must stand. Okay? Now, because this cannot be changed, 1 is 1. It's always be 1. So if we want eta 1 to be higher than 1, say 2, then eta 2 must be higher or smaller than 1. Must be smaller, right? So, just like this. Eta 1 and eta 2, if they are both 1, then the equation holds, right? And if I just raise up eta 1, eta 2 must be smaller. Otherwise, when they are increasing, or when they increases at the same time, when eta 1 is higher than 1 and eta 2 is higher than 1, then this cannot be held, right? So on the right hand side, 1 is 1, 1 is 1. This one cannot be changed. So on the left hand side, if you raise the value of eta 1, you must lower the value of eta 2 to make it balance. Okay? So, when both of them are at this value, and if one good goes to the region of luxury, and the other must be for either necessary or even inferior. Is that clear? So when you raise one up, you must lower another one. So it is possible for good 1 and good 2 to be inferior goods at the same time? Do you think it's possible or not? Can we have eta 1 and eta 2 to be negative at the same time? Of course not, right? Once again, I'd like to have your attention here. So when good 1 and good 2, whose income elasticity are 1 at the same time, okay? So the equation this equation is met. And this equation must be held always. We must hold this one always, okay? And now, for this are both 1. And is it possible for them to be both inferior goods? Of course not, right? Because if you make one inferior, then the other one must be luxury, so that this equation can be balanced. Okay? And of course, can we have both goods to be necessary? Of course not, because if one to be necessary and the other must be luxury. And we cannot have 2 luxury goods as well. Okay? So this must be balanced. And the equation can be met, or this requirement can be met, when both of them, when epsilon 1 and epsilon 2 to be 1. I mean the income elasticity to be 1. And if you want to raise 1, you must lower the other value, right? And if you want to raise this one, you must lower that one. Okay? So you cannot just raise them at the same time, or you cannot lower them at the same time. So we can never have all goods we're consuming are inferior goods, or all of them are necessary goods, or all of them are luxury goods. Okay? Because we must satisfy this requirement. And okay, so we have food on the horizontal and housing on the vertical, and now the income increased from L1 to L2, and okay, if ICC, what does it mean by ICC? The curve chasing the optimal solutions, right? Which is ICC. If ICC looks like this, which means when income increases and the indifference curve tangent the budget line at point A here, okay? So in this case, you will see good one, whose quantity demanded is lower, right? As income increases and your quantity demanded for good one is lowered, what does it mean? Which means food or good one is an inferior good, right? And since this one is an inferior good, the other one, housing, when something falls within this range, and the other thing must be within luxury, right? So you will see the quantity demanded of good 2 get higher, right? When income increase from here to here, then the quantity demanded of housing will be raised from here to here. And you will see the percentage is quite large, right? So in this case, good 2 must be luxury. And if ICC looks like this, then good 1 is normative and good 2 is normative. And both of them are normative, will fall within this range. So if something is necessary if something is necessary and the other must be luxury. Okay? And let me explain this in more detail later. Now, and the third one. Do we have third one? Yes. So in this case, which good 1 or good 2, is inferior? Which one do you think is inferior, good 1 or good 2? We have an increased income. Good 2 is inferior, right? As income increases, the consumption of good 2 falls, and the consumption of good 1 increased, right? So good 1 is luxury, and good 2 is inferior. So just remember something that here, the reference points of this formula would be 1 and 1 for the income elasticity, okay, of all goods. 1, 1. So here we have we got 2 goods. But if there are, say, 5 goods, P1 Q1 plus P2 Q2 plus P3 Q3 plus 2 P5 Q5 equals Y. If our budget constraint looks like this, then we must have theta 1, the share of the expenditure on good 1 to Y, right? Theta 1, eta 1, the income elasticity of good 1, plus theta 2, eta 2, plus theta 5, eta 5 must be 1. Okay? The same way we may derive this formula. And this is actually a requirement we must meet. So the natural reference points for eta 1, eta 2 through eta 5 would be 1, 1, 1, 1, and 1. Because given these reference points, we have theta 1, theta 2, the sum of thetas to be 1, which is a natural thing, right? All weights must be summed up to 1. So this would be a reference point. If you want something to be higher, if you want some income elasticity to be higher, there must be something to be lower, right? Got the point? And if this is the ICC and Q1, Q2, so with a smaller income, a higher income, if your income increases from Y1 to Y2, your optimal consumption points, which is A and B, and this is a error line, 射线 error line from the origin. Alright? So, given this kind of straight line, do you think what do you think about this and this? The length to this length. The ratio of this to this. What do you think? Let me give you another line to think about this. This to this. How would you explain or interpret the length of the optimal points to the other side, the length of the other side? this to this if the optimal point is here. It must be about P1, Q1 over P2, Q2. It must be about the expenditure, right? But what do you think? Which part corresponds to which part? If we call this part 1 and part 2, do you think this is part 1 or part 2? The yellow part and versus the red part. Which do you think correspond to part 1 and which part 2? Okay, let's take a break and you may think about that during the break. I'll see you on 10:15, okay? Oh, sorry, it's too long. 10:05. Come back by 10:05, please.